I'm hoping that during my 20 minutes and at the end a Q&A, I can cover topics that touch upon some of what Steve just took us through, because I thought that Steve's summary remarks of the content you're going to be discussing over the course of the conference are both exciting and exactly much of what I get to work on at Hearst, and very relevant topics. So I look forward to getting into as many as I can in this time, and I would welcome your questions not just at the end, but throughout. I would love to make sure that I contribute to your thought process in terms of how you run your business. We're pretty open at Hearst. I've been at Hearst for 6 years. I work for a gentleman named Troy Young, who's the president of the magazine company. Formerly was 6 years ago hired as the president of the digital part of the magazine company. So I work very closely with Troy. He's a great experimenter. We are constantly tinkering with things and then measuring to see what resulted, the positive and the negative. Now, 6 years ago when I joined, my principal focus was programmatic. I think this will follow me. My principal focus was programmatic. And so that was, at the time, the center of my life, the center of my domain skill set, or developing domain skill set. Prior to that, I had spent 14 years at Forbes Media in their digital group as more or less a general manager, working on sales support, working with ad networks pre-programmatic, and then, of course, when programmatic came along, focusing most of my work on developing that new line of revenue. And I'll tell you a quick story that may be useful and hopefully inspiring. I think about it from time to time. At Forbes, we had used an ad server that was not DFP, and for many years, like a decade. And that was then, as it would be now, atypical. But we were very comfortable with the special support we got from 24/7 Real Media using that ad server. And from time to time, we'd revisit, why aren't we on DFP like everybody else? All the advertisers deal with other publishers that are on DFP. We're the exception. When a new CEO came in, a fellow named Mike Perlis, he challenged that notion. And I was very dug in. I was very committed to the system we were using. And I'll get to my point. I was inflexible, in a word. I was inflexible. I was so vested in what we were using that my bias was to rationalize why we shouldn't change. And as I reflect back, boy, am I happy that we pivoted and changed, not because we weren't being served well by the great company 24/7, which later became part of WPP, led by Dave Moore, but because DFP was a very critical piece of the infrastructure to take advantage of what we weren't sure but later learned was coming, which was the onslaught of programmatic. We were still struggling with the fact that and I've been in the display advertising business for 20 years. So I would say in the first third of that, publishers and digital publishers dominated. There weren't many native pure play digital publishers at the time. I worked for one for a year, TheStreet.com, but mostly pure play's been a phenomenon of recent times. But we were struggling with the fact that ad networks during the second half of the last decade were really, in a way, cleaning our clocks and going to the same agencies with a better offer where they would aggregate inventory, and then they would use technology to target audience segments, whereas we had historically always sold context. We sold the context of the different sections we would publish. So anyway, we changed over, and it was a very fortunate thing we did, because we got to participate in what became a very big programmatic business. And so programmatic at the time, and then skipping to my work at Hearst, which is why I was hired at Hearst originally. Programmatic. Hearst wanted to capitalize on programmatic revenue, which will bring us to data shortly. We developed, in addition to our very capable sales team, an open exchange, which was self-service, which was the polar opposite of direct sales on insertion orders. It was self-service. It was perceived, often correctly, as low CPMs. It was perceived as the buyer's in control because they're essentially trafficking. And it was also perceived, and I would say misperceived in retrospect, as something that would completely undermine our direct business. But who knew then? It could have been anybody's guess. But here we are today, and I will tell you that we have a collection of very healthy revenue streams that include direct sales insertion orders. That business for us is growing. Digital, direct, insertion order-based business, trafficked by ad ops, let's call it the traditional way, is growing for Hearst. In addition, what's growing, and Steve mentioned you're going to get into this in some detail later today or tomorrow, the part of programmatic where salespeople and sales support people, sales activation people participate, whether it's non-guaranteed deals or guaranteed deals, Steve mentioned programmatic direct specifically, that's growing for us too. And last, the open exchange. The open exchange has always only ever grown for us. So we take an approach with our programmatic business, and I'm really speaking to the first 2 years of my 6 at Hearst, that we're open for business on all of those fronts. If an advertiser, if any one of our advertisers wants to buy us one way or the other, or all of them, which is most typically the case, we are available on insertion orders with full service. We are available through programmatic direct automated guaranteed with reserved inventory. We are available with private auction, whether it's fixed price or a variable price. And we're also available on the open exchange without restriction. We do not implement floor prices. We do not implement blocks. We do not prevent any of our advertisers from accessing us in any of those ways. The only blocks that we implement in our system are the kind of blocks you would expect us to implement as it relates to very questionable type advertisers that you don't want running media on your site. So that was a major effort in 2013 and 14. At the same time, we were developing another way and product suite for our direct sales team to go to market and complement display ad sales. And that was native advertising, specifically branded content. And that became, for us, very, very big business. So that too is also growing. Branded content programs are very nearly a part of every ad sale that we do. It's not 100%, but it's close to 100%. Now, again, I'm talking digital. I'm not talking about the print side of the business, which is for me new. I've been working with our print colleagues only for the past 9 months since Troy took this new role on. And I'll speak to how our data studio is working in the service not only of our digital business, but also of our print business, and not just the commercial side of Hearst, but also the editorial side of Hearst. Let me pause for 1 second. Are there any questions? I would welcome any questions. Yes, sir.
Thanks for talking about this. How do you see audience and data throughout programmatic guarantee and private marketplaces? Are you activating on those differently, or are there different pieces that you can use? Would you like to repeat the question?
Yes.
Also, tell us Hi there. My name's Scott Messer. I work for Leaf Group. We're a publisher.
Okay, Scott.
So I'm curious, inside programmatic guaranteed or programmatic direct versus private marketplaces or versus direct sales, how are you using audience data, specifically segments, differently across those three tactics?
Yes, I love that question because I really appreciate that question because I think I can offer you something useful. You'll be the judge. I was very frustrated for the first, now I'm going to look at a 6-year timeline that I've been at Hearst, okay? And DMPs came onto the scene approximately, I'm going to guess 10 years ago, okay? And I mark personally the 10-year anniversary of programmatic as January 1st, 2020, which is ironically also CCPA. But RTB, as a reminder, and I've studied this, I published a book on this. I worked on it for 4 years. So we've interviewed 400 ad tech executives. The anniversary of real-time bidding is January 1st, 2020. So DMPs were birthed along that spectrum. And I felt that initially publishers there was a bit of selling fear, meaning your data's leaking, other companies are benefiting from it. You need a DMP to put a moat around it and protect it so that you can sell it and benefit from it. And we tried in earnest those first bunch of years to put that into practice. And big fail, I would say. We didn't make money, additive money, appending data to either our direct or our programmatic guaranteed, which was fledgling at that time, or our programmatic non-guaranteed, whether it was preferred deals fixed price or private auction variable price. And we certainly didn't make money appending our data to the open exchange. So we took a view that we tried, maybe we'll revisit it, but essentially the buyers brought their data. And something magical happened directionally 2 years ago. And now we're making a lot of money appending data to all of those buying systems. Direct sold IO, specifically what you asked about, programmatic direct, and not yet open exchange. But what we do is, I'm not permitted to name an advertiser, but I can certainly refer to categories. And you can imagine Hearst does a lot of business with the beauty advertiser category. And there are some incredibly sophisticated, not only agencies, but also advertiser brands that have data people that can work with our data people to activate what you described. A particular beauty advertiser said to us, and this about 6 months ago, we're going to give you, Hearst, our CRM file. We're going to anonymize it through LiveRamp, which is one of the clean room third-party systems. And then what you'll do for us, hopefully, is you'll take that anonymized data that is our list of people who buy products from us, and you'll run it against your audience utilization. You'll match them. You'll learn what they do. Like, how are they different? How are they unique? How are they special? And then we'd like you not only to send us back what our people are doing when they're in your network, because we see 300 million people a month. So there's a huge match. But also, what about the people who are not in our CRM file that look exactly like what you're learning? And so we then ship that data back. So we've got folks on our staff who are trained data scientists. I went back to school. I'm in a grad program. I haven't been in college in 30 years. And I wasn't that great of a student then. But I'm there now learning data mining and machine learning simply so that I can work effectively with the folks who really know these processes. And so that we can bring that back to the beauty advertiser in this particular case. I have many examples. And then they can take that data, set it up on their deal IDs, their programmatic direct deal IDs, and the spend goes up. You can see it. It's not table stakes to keep things flat. It actually drives growth. And in another case, same advertiser, they said, in addition to sending our CRM file, we conducted this survey. We built this survey instrument that came back and taught us the 7 classifications of the types of customers we have. Because of all our customers, you can classify them into different types. We want you to take those classifications, do the same data science taxonomy exercise, and come back to us. They're actually using that data set to buy through insertion orders and to inform their branded content programs. So I feel that that data by the sell-side publishers has become real, finally. And that the value of the DMP, which we always questioned, if we spend, whatever, $50,000 a month, I'm making this up, are we even making that? I can tell you with confidence, we are crushing that. And it's a consequence of the nature of the question that you raised. So thank you for that question. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to add to that? It's very exciting for us that our data is creating value for our advertisers. And what I described is the part of our data that is loosely characterized as anonymous web data. Now, there are efforts underway to de-anonymize web users, which I think for publishers we all need to be careful about. We need to be careful to not only follow the developing laws, both in Europe and the United States, but also the basic ethics of what's right and wrong. And I'm not rendering judgment. I haven't studied it yet enough. But why that's important is because I'll pivot to another topic. I'll jump through a few slides. Hearst is best learned about. It's a giant, wonderful company. I feel very blessed to have come from a wonderful company at Forbes and then now at another amazing company, Hearst. It's a very big company. And also, in terms of media audience, quite huge, as you can see on this list. So one of the many companies in the Hearst portfolio is a company called CDS Global. Some of the folks in attendance may do business with CDS Global. As of August, when Troy took on his new role, that company I'm now accountable for. What do they do? For print, for magazines, they are, for most publishers, the fulfillment company. They're the customer service center. They answer 50,000 phone calls every day from magazine subscribers. Many, many more email interactions. And they've accumulated a massive amount of data, largely on American magazine subscribers. And so they're the database of record that is used to make sure that if you move, we send the magazine to your new home correctly. They are custodians of other people's data. It is not CDS's data. They are custodians of Hearst's data, because you can imagine Hearst Publishing is one of their bigger customers. They have many big customers. Hearst is among them. But we're working with CDS Global now very closely to match up our advertisers' objectives with that circulation data and to start to build capabilities that not only activates anonymized web data for the purpose of ad campaigns, but also activates, with permissions, the magazine circulation data, and also having a 360 view of all of our consumers, whether they're magazine subscribers currently or in the past, or not at all. And so we are really heads down on data at Hearst. And we don't ever regard, even though we've built this data studio over the last 2 years, which is the central focus of where the various data scientists work, where the taxonomists work, where data analysts work, where research and insights people work. There's directionally 75 or more people in this unit. But our data work is not a department. It is across every part of our organization. And this group and all groups have people who are skilled in quantitative analysis, and they work with each other to better inform editors and better inform our sales team internally with business operations and process. So we use, for example, Salesforce.com, but in an incredibly elegant and sophisticated way, interconnected with a lot of other systems, to self-optimize how we service our customers. So data, the data-driven objectives of Hearst the publisher, is not only about serving ad brands. It is very much about serving ad brands, but it's also about making us better in the interest of producing content for our audience and also providing great service for our clients and generating commerce. We probably don't have time to touch on all these aspects, but I will invite anyone. I'm really impressed with the wonderful list of sponsors at our event today, and we do business with a great many of them. I hope we can do business with everyone, and you're more than welcome to always reach out to me. I'm simply Michael Smith at Hearst.com, no period. There's 8 of us at Hearst, so you definitely want to email Michael Smith at Hearst.com. But any other questions that folks would like to ask? Yes, sir?
Like Damien Slattery of Fast Company, you just talked about, or you have a case study on using the data for a custom content program, for a branded content program, how you use that. I think you referenced it somewhere along the way that
I did.
That data informs even some of your custom content.
That's correct. And thank you for asking that question, because I wouldn't want to miss that aspect. Most of our direct sold programs include custom content. And just to bifurcate, we have programs that are very nearly in perpetuity, where we've built a staff of editors who focus on a brand's custom content, branded content needs. We call those agile programs. And then we have single campaigns that run 3 months, 6 months, a year. Our data studio and our broader service organizations, including advertising operations, are trained in producing some combination of weekly templatized reports. Those templates typically come to us from the agency. So the agency wants us to score not only the display ad performance, which includes traditional things like CTR, certainly viewability, which we've become very, very good at servicing. Viewability is a critical topic for all of us, and there's some variation in the standard that each buyer adopts. And so to become expert at that is important. It's foundational, and to maximally utilize your available inventory. In addition, there are, in that template, various branded content KPIs that we need to report on. And so we built a system, because the data set comes from a variety of sources. We partnered with a company called Sigma with an S. And they built a very customized system for us that in one sense is an aggregator of data from sources as fundamental as Google Analytics to sources like Moat and dozens of other sources, the ad server, the ad exchanges, and we work with pretty much every ad exchange. We work with the many header bidders. for the display portion. But those statistics, as it relates to branded content, which is your question, are shared with the branded content editors, who are then informed about what's working and what's not working. We also have a group. If you were to take the timeline that I've been at Hearst, the 6 years, where the first 2 were largely programmatic, the most recent 2 and current were this gentleman's question around data on the sell side. I would say that middle piece speaks most to your question. We became experts during that period of time at the acquisition of traffic, including paid traffic, to branded content programs. And finding an audience, including on Facebook, to service these programs in ways that deliver the results our advertisers expect. We call the program Ignition when we bring them to the site, and we call the program Social Ignition when we bring the user to, for example, an Instagram instantiation of the branded content program. And it varies a lot from there, so I would appreciate the opportunity to expand on my answer offline with you, because I'd like to be helpful here. But the data that we use to inform branded content editors in the service of our advertisers is very voluminous and varied, and includes our buying activity in terms of traffic acquisition. Does that, at least in part, answer your intended question? Okay. Yes,
Mike,
sir?
how do you, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, let's go
Okay.
ahead.
Hi, Jen Slenny from Dotdash.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your org structure. So I guess there are 2 questions here, which is in terms of how your data science team is integrated with the sales sort of side. Are they cross-functional? How large are they really? And then on the flip side, in terms of integrating, selling direct and programmatic, how is your Salesforce and revenue operation teams oriented? Are they integrated or are they completely separate?
I just want to understand what you mean by integrated versus separate. By integrated, do you mean do they report to the CRO?
I think as in, does a salesperson sell both direct and programmatic? Or is there like a person that's like, I'm direct only. If you want to buy programmatic,
Okay.
client goes somewhere else.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the first, until a year ago, we had a separate programmatic sales team. Then 1 year ago, and that team reported directly to me. And 1 year ago, we took that team and we moved them under the CRO, a gentleman named Todd Haskell. We wanted to do exactly what you described in your question, which is to train and empower all of our many salespeople. Because Hearst has a very large and capable media sales force. We wanted 100% of our team to be able to sell programmatic. Now, as with anything, as with any profession, you have folks on a continuum who are further along, and maybe at the moment less further along and need help getting here. And so is it the case that the folks that may be somewhat less further along in this particular skill set still call in that programmatic sales team to assist with sales? Absolutely. But it's happening less frequently because the information disseminates quickly. And Hearst hires amazing people. So it's not hard to pivot.
So I know we're running short on time. Very quick question. You talk specifically here about OTT data that you derive. I'm just wondering what that is specifically that you're finding useful.
With OTT? Okay. I have something on my mind. I'm just going to say it just to complete my answer. When you hire data scientists, what I find is they need 3 to 6 months of being with the sales team, including going on sales calls to learn the business. Because when you study data science, as I'm now doing, that is so far removed from how a media sales business works. So it'll take you 3 to 6 months. You should consider that an investment. But our data scientists, they sit, we have an open floor plan. They sit next to the CRO. So they're not this remote department. They are with Todd. They are with Todd's leadership team. They are in the brainstorming meetings. They go on sales calls. And now our data scientists, they know the media business cold. So they're able to be maximally helpful. And I felt like that was part of your question, so I ought to make sure I didn't leave that unanswered. As far as OTT, for a magazine business, now Hearst has a television company. In addition to the magazine company, there's Hearst Television, which is approximately 30 television stations throughout the United States. Our colleagues, who sell a lot of linear television spots, but also sell a lot of digital, increasingly are selling OTT, and very successfully. Their partner in that regard is a company called Data Zoo, but they have other partners as well, and they're having great success with it. Part of the media buying operation that I'm accountable for is accountable for buying media on behalf of our Hearst Television colleagues. So the different Hearst companies, Hearst Television, Hearst Newspapers, iCrossing, our ad agency, CDS Global, which I mentioned, Hearst Magazines. The way Hearst is structured is there's great synergy throughout Hearst. And the work that we do together, and actually the building that was constructed a little over 10 years ago from its design, has just, and our open floor plan, has brought us together in ways that not only do you work across the organization routinely, daily, but a lot of times, and we're very proud of this, we move people around. You may work in part of the organization for a year, and then you get moved over here, and a lot of interconnectedness. And I think it really works well. I think I'm over my time. and I'm
But
sorry.
Mike, you'll be here for the break, so you can grab Mike and pick his brain then. Mike Smith, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Let me